Some call me fast, and that's because I'm not. And I have a lot of hobbies in life. I love photography. I'm excited you're doing this, but I don't do video. I just do stills. I want to catch everything in one scene. You can just look at it and just read it coming at you. But I ride a bicycle. I rode 50 miles yesterday. I go down to Game Point and look around and just had a whole bunch of stuff from, I live in the city of Orange. My sweetheart, there in the back row, that's Carla. And we met in junior high. And we've been living together for 53 years now, almost 54. And that sounds ancient. But I thought, it feels like I just met you yesterday. That's called points. I'm trying to show you how to do this. But I love life. Lived it as fully as I can live it. My body's falling apart on me now because I've abused it all my life. I love backpacking and mountain climbing and water skiing and snow skiing and just a lot of things. So that's me, sort of. We have 3 daughters, and if you asked any of them to introduce me, they would tell you things I don't want to hear. So, but we're good. This morning, I want to spend some time with you looking at some wisdom that I find in this book. And I have always, all my life, you get the picture here, have loved adventure. We grew up in the desert of eastern Washington. They call it the Evergreen State, but somehow they missed the eastern part of the state because it's all sand and sagebrush. But, and so I got into scouting pretty early so I could get into the mountains, just to get out of the desert. But I love an adventure. I'm a kid who never grew up. Someone asked me, said, well, where'd you grow up? And I said, I don't know. I haven't. Well, I can tell you where I spent my childhood. But I love experience, new experiences. I love discovering things that are new. And as a kid, my first excitement in reading was Treasure Island. And did any of you ever even heard of that book? I didn't think so. Carla told me, no one came. Oh, all right! Way to go, Chloe. The Treasure Island is a story about a young kid in England, Jim Hopkins, and he had an old salt pirate buddy called Billy Bones, and he introduced him to Long John Silver. That's not just a fish place, by the way, but Long John Silver. It's a story about chasing after a hidden pirate's treasure. And that just caught my imagination. I got excited about that. And I was good. Carla warned me that you may not have known that book, and so maybe you know something else that I enjoy, and that'd be Star Trek. I love the theme, go where no man has gone before. I love to explore and to be in places like that. But that's me. We've together been in 38 different countries, at least 2 weeks, and many times returned several times. But we like an adventure. And I like looking for treasure. In Cambodia, I couldn't wait to get outside of the village and just kind of scour the ground, watching out for landmines. But apart from that, looking for little blue glistening stone on the top of the soil, sapphires. And I found some sapphires while I was there. And we went to a jewelry store there once, and I saw a pendant, and Carla's wearing it this morning. It's kind of like a great cluster of blue sapphires. It's there, and I thought, ooh, that's going to cost a god of money, probably. I'm thinking what you pay for jewelry here. And what was interesting to me, when he saw that I pointed to that pendant that was there, he put it on a scale and weighed it, and that's how he determined how much it was going to cost. He just wanted to weigh the gold, because the stones didn't mean anything to him. He ended up paying $12, I think, for this pendant. And I came back here, I gave it to Carla, and then I took it down to a jeweler once. I said, would you check, see if these are real stones? This is, because, and he said, yeah, those are real sapphires. And I said, really? He said, what would this be worth here in your store? Oh, 400. I'm going, yo! The treasure hunter for me. I found value in my search. So we went back and brought a lot more sapphires back. But the other thing I do, and something you can do here, is I go up to the local mountains, the San Bernardino Mountains here, and up to Big Bear, and on the, how's Big Bear laid out? It's either the, I think it's the western shore of Big Bear Lake, up in the mountains. There's an old gold mine. It's called Lucky Baldwin Gold Mine. You can drive right to it. And you can go up and scour around in the diggings and stuff. And I like to go up there and just kind of dig around, and I find crystals, beautiful crystals. I have one that's about the size of my little finger, you know, just that is shaped, and it's just it's treasure. I love to hunt for treasure. That's my whole point with it. And I still enjoy adventures. I love Indiana Jones. I want to search for valuable artifacts, and those are fun for me. And I found a list of the 10 lost treasures. Last night, I just Googled lost treasure and came up with this list of 10 lost treasures. There is $70 million worth of crown jewels belonging to King John in England that's somewhere in the country that has never been found. I can assure you, we wouldn't be the first to be looking for it. But another thing I found was that in King Solomon, he built the temple. King David, his father, wanted to build the temple, but God didn't permit him. And his son, Solomon, built the temple for God. It's the place with the Holy of Holies and the place of worship for the Jews. And that was full of treasures. And when the Romans came in and conquered the land, they took the treasures out of the temple and hid them throughout the country. And back about 50 years ago, some people were digging in the mountains down by the Dead Sea in Israel, and they found some caves. And in these caves, they found some clay vases, and in them were scrolls. And these scrolls dated to about 200 BC. There were the Qumran, the city of Qumran, and this was the place where people had hidden scrolls of the Old Testament. And they had also hidden instructions and things that belonged to the temple. And among them is a description of treasure that's hidden from the temple. And they're still looking for those. This is only a few years now that they've had this text that they found that describes some of these places. But it is assumed at this point that the value of all that treasure from the temple is somewhere around $1.2 billion. So there's treasure out there if you want to go digging for it. You know, it's there to be had. I also discovered that this is still real and validated up to 2002, that the Knights Templar, dating back to the days of the Crusades and all of the... Did you see the movie National Treasure? You know, you got the one where they were looking for the treasure that belonged to the Knights Templar, and they found it in the basement of a church in Philadelphia. I don't know if you remember that story now, but how about that? And then there's the National Treasure too, you know, the book. But anyway, I love that kind of thing. But I want to tell you that at 15 years of age, that was a few years ago, yesterday, I discovered a treasure that I have valued my entire life. And it's the treasure I find in this book, the Bible. At 15, I was introduced to a personal relationship with God through faith in His Son, Jesus. And I read about the life of Jesus. I was highly attracted to how He lived His life, what He valued. I was highly attracted and inspired by the things He taught. And it motivated me enough that I pursued a life of service to Him. And I went to Seattle Pacific Christian School in Seattle. Graduated from there, went to work with a high school ministry called Youth for Christ. Any of you ever heard of that? I don't think so. They had high school club programs called Campus Life. And this was at a time when the schools were not quite as protective about anything that might be religious. And I had the freedom to go on the high school campus and to meet with students and just have time with them and plan activities, go out and do things, and we'd have club meetings in students' homes, and we discuss issues of life. And in the conclusion of that, I would share some wisdom that came out of this book. And I saw a lot of young people, high school age students. I worked with the organization for 20 years in Seattle, Long Beach, and in Orange County. And but that discovery of a relationship with God and the treasure of wisdom that is in this book, it just marked me. And I'm excited for it, and no regret in a decision I made in my life to say, I want to follow what you have in mind for me, God. I want to discover what's in your word. I want to learn what you've given to us to learn about you. And to learn from the wisdom you've given us is to how to live this life and to live it well. And one of the first, when I became a follower of Jesus, and someone told me I need to read his word because there's wisdom in this for me. I just opened it up in the center. I didn't know where do you begin in this book. I mean, it's too big to read. So I just opened it. It happened to open up to a writing that was really strange, Ecclesiastica or something like that. Ecclesiastes, you got it. But that's how it looked to me as a young kid. But I read it, and I was amazed at, here's this guy talking about all the things he experienced in life and how they ended up in futility. He called it was chasing after wind. All the pursuits of life, the pursuit of wealth, the pursuit of labor, the pursuit of sexual relationship, the pursuit of remembering all the list of things that he gave. And he concluded in all of these that they were all futility. They had no meaning in life for him. And his conclusion was, at the end of it all, just know that God is, and that one day you will account to him for your life. I thought, well, I'll see what that looks like. It didn't sound very exciting to me at the time, other than the thought that I might get to know God, the creator of this universe. That was important to me. I went to Seattle Pacific as a music major. I played trumpet. I played well enough that the school gave me a half scholarship, room, board, and tuition. And that was today that would be a really big deal. It cost me a whole $5,000 to go through 4 years of college when I went through it. And what's that? Just one class here for a semester? But I discovered in music, to get a major in music, that I had to be recital proficient in the piano. And I said, I don't get it. I can play the piano, I can chord, I can write, but I'm a brass man. I play trumpet. I'm not a pianist. I said, no, that's a requirement to graduate here with a music degree. And so I stepped out of music and I got excited about a class I took in philosophy. And I started to pursue that. And I also had to have a language, and I didn't want German, and I didn't want French, and I had a little Spanish, but I saw that they offered Greek. And I thought, wow, I could learn Greek, and I could read God's Word in what they wrote it in. I thought that'd be pretty cool. So I ended up with a double major of philosophy and Greek. But in my sophomore year in philosophy class, we were studying the empiricist. What is true is what you can predict. If you can't predict it, then it's not true. If you can't touch it, taste it, feel it, be tangible to it, then it's not real. And that became a challenge to my thinking about this God that I had been following and believing in for 5-6 years of my life at that point in time. And I said, have I just been fooling myself? Is this just folklore? Is this real? Because I couldn't put the same tangible evidence to the items of faith in my life as I could in this is wood, it's solid, and it's here. I can tell you, this is here, and if I don't respect this, it'll hurt me. And So I have to come to the place where I go, how do I deal with God with a perspective of what can I know for sure and what can I trust is certain? And there's a verse in Hebrews. It says that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. That sounds a little cryptic in a sense, but faith is the solid substance of things that you hope for. I'm hoping for something. I don't have it yet. It's not in my possession, but because I believe it's going to be real coming to me. It will be tangible. Faith is the substance of something I'm hoping for. And the evidence, faith is my evidence for things that I can't see. Well, in my cynicism, in my skepticism, as this now brilliant sophomore college student in philosophy, I paraphrased that verse. And I said, faith is the substance in which people fool themselves, and the evidence are those who believe. That's how I moved in my place of having a like childlike faith and trust in God to a place of doubting Him. And I'm going, and a whole lot of my peers would fully agree with me with what I had paraphrased. And I began to think how brilliant I was that I discovered this so young in life. And then there were difficulties in my life somewhere along those ways, and I struggled with some things, and I didn't have God to go to because I didn't believe in God. That's kind of how I moved. And I had a chemistry class, and I was studying my book, my study, and I had this, and you may think I'm really weird, but that's okay. I like heard a voice in my head. And why is it that you can read your chemistry book and it tells you to mix this chemical and you'll get this result, and you trust that? Why can you not trust my word? I've told you how to live life. And has it not proven to be true up to this point in time, what I've told you? And I just broke inside. I said, God, I am so sorry. I'm struggling. I don't understand. You've got to help me through this. And it was in that context that I just resolved in my faith that I said, you know, there's a lot of things that don't make sense. But you do. And I'm not going to doubt you again. And from that point on in my life, there's been times in which there's been deep struggle for us. But just 15 years ago, a doctor told Carla that she had 5 days to live and there was nothing they could do for her. You know, she's here. Now, does God have a hand in this or what? I remember going into the doctor's, the hospital down there. We had to register because we found somebody who said, I can do that surgery. She had a mass growing in her brain. And we found a hospital that took care of that. And we were registering the hospital. And well, part of my story I forgot to tell you. When we walked out of the doctor's office, she had 5 days to live. I said, babe, I don't know what to think. I don't know what to do here. I just know that God causes all things to work together for good. I don't know how He's going to do that. So we go and register at the hospital. And we do all the stuff that's there, and we walk out into the hallway, and the lady's going to direct us down to the path lab where she has to get some tests. And she says, there's something I'm supposed to tell you. God causes all things to work together for good. She didn't know. How in the world would that be accomplished? You know, but God confirmed to us in that context, I'm engaged here, I'm involved with you. I'm here with you. You can trust me. And she's here 15 years later, sitting here with you. And I'm going, God is real. And what He says, He is faithful to. And I can trust Him with my life and all the things that come my way. And I just say that to you so you'll know. And I called it pursuit of treasure. I mean, I love the adventure of seeking new things. But I have found a pleasure in life in the treasure that I have in God. the treasure that I have in faith, the treasure that I have in His Word, the treasure that I have in His wisdom and in His counsel. Now, all of that was my introduction. Now, the rest of this, we're going to fly through pretty quick, but you got the point, I think, already. I could say amen and we could go, but I want you to hear God's Word about it. In Proverbs chapter 2, you read part of that this morning already, in verse 1. In your notes, on the back side, I have the verse, it's there, and that's the NIV translation, by the way. It says, my son, now this is King Solomon writing to his son Rehoboam. This is King Solomon, the son of King David. And so Solomon's writing, says, my son, if you accept my words and store up my commandments within you, turning your ear to wisdom, and applying your heart to understanding. And if you call out for insight and cry aloud for understanding, and if you look for it, that's wisdom and understanding, and if you look for it as for silver and search for it as hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear or respect of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom, and from His mouth come knowledge and understanding. Solomon was saying to his son, right at the beginning of a writing of all the wisdom that God had given to him, and he says, son, seek wisdom. Seek understanding. That's treasure. And he says something about this treasure. It's greater than silver and hidden treasure. And in Proverbs chapter 3, verses 13 through 18, it says this, blessed is the man who finds wisdom, the man who gains understanding, for she, that's wisdom, is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold. She, wisdom, is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her. Long life is in her right hand, and in her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways, the ways of wisdom, are pleasant ways, and her paths are peace. She is a tree of life to those who embrace her, who embrace wisdom. Those who lay hold of her will be blessed. This is writing of Solomon to his son. And for all the treasures in our world, nothing has more value than wisdom. Solomon was only 21 years of age when his father, King David, died. And Solomon was made king over all of Israel. 21 years of age. Anybody close to that here? King Solomon. Would you follow his lead? Well, all nation did for a reason we're going to look at here. In 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 5, is a record of Solomon's conversation with God when he was anointed king. This is at Gibeon, at a place of sacred worship. The Lord appeared to Solomon during the night in a dream. And God said, ask for whatever you want me to give you. Sounds like the genie in there. But God said to Solomon, ask whatever you want, and I'll give it to you. And Solomon answered, you have shown great kindness to your servant, my father David. Because he was faithful to you and righteous and upright in heart, you have continued this great kindness to him and given to him a son to sit on his throne to this very day. Now, O Lord, my God, you have made your servant king in place of my father David, speaking of himself as a servant to the king. But I am only a little child and do not know how to carry out my duties. Your servant is here among the people whom you have chosen, a great people, too numerous to count or number. So give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. Grant me the wisdom to lead. For who is able to govern this great people of yours? And the Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked for this. So God said to him, since you have asked for this, and not for a long life, or wealth, or for yourself, nor have you asked for the death of your enemies, but for discernment in administrating justice, I will do what you have asked. I will give you wise and discerning heart, so that there will never have been anyone like you, nor will there ever be. Moreover, I will give what you have not asked for, both riches and honor, so that in your lifetime you will have no equal among kings. And if you walk in my ways and obey my statutes and commandments as David your father did, I will give you a long life. How would you like that conversation with God? But what it tells me in this text, and I have to come to it by faith, I wasn't there, I don't know, but I can read three things that Solomon wrote: the Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the Song of Solomon. And I see it packed with life wisdom for me that has guided me all these years. I challenge you to take a look at the Proverbs. There's 31 chapters. Read one a day. You have to pick a month that's got 31 days in it, or if you want to do it in a month. But just 31 days. Read through the wisdom that Solomon gave to his son Rehoboam. Wisdom that God gave to Solomon. Discernment that God gave to him. And we can share in that. And when you finish Proverbs, read through Ecclesiastes. Get a feel for what I experienced as my first reading in the Bible. And say, where is reality and where is futility? But those are things that I have come from. And there are rewards for the wisdom that comes from God. And those are recorded in Proverbs 2 and 3. In Proverbs 2, verse 7, it says, He, God, holds victory in store for the upright. He is a shield to those whose walk is blameless. For he guards the course of the just and protects the way of his faithful ones. Then you will understand what is right and just and fair, every good path. For wisdom will enter your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant for your soul. Discretion will protect you, and understanding will guard you. Those are pretty big treasures. All the things I face in life, to know that I stand in Him, and in His wisdom, and in His counsel, and in His promises. I'm not alone in this life. I'm not just me and my own ability and skill and strength. I live and stand in God, the Creator of the universe. I just recently taught through a series in the letter of Colossians. Paul wrote to a Colossian church. And in that there's the great mystery, and that is the mystery that Christ is in us. The Creator of the universe, recorded in chapter 1 there in Colossians. The great mystery and the marvelous mystery is the fact that by faith, the one who created all dwells in us, who believe in Him. He's not just with you. He's not out there for you. He's not just there with you, but He's in us, who have embraced by faith that He is the Son of God, and when He died on the cross, He took every judgment that could ever come against us on Himself. He satisfied any requirement of God's justice by the offer of His life on our behalf. And I can believe that. And I can live in the freedom that that gives me. Proverbs 3. Verse 1 says, My son, do not forget my teachings, but keep my commandments in your heart. For they will prolong your life many years and bring you prosperity. Let love and faithfulness never leave you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Then you will win favor with a good name in the sight of God and man. And there's one gold nugget of wisdom that I pulled out of the Proverbs early on in my life. It's been a resource to me, a source of confidence in major decisions that I've had to make. And that's the next two verses here in Proverbs 3. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, verses 5 and 6. I call it a gold nugget of wisdom. Simple, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight. Just a nugget of wisdom. It's been the guide for me, a major source of wisdom for me in a lot of decision-making situations. I want to tell you all those, but I'm not going to have time to do it. Unless you want to sit down and have coffee sometime, just let me know and I'll come up here and we'll talk some more. But, so how does one do this? How does one trust the Lord with all your heart? What does it look like not to lean on your own understanding? How do you do that? I've just got a few things I'll leave with you. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Will you just say that with me? Trust in the Lord with all your heart. What's one? Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Okay. Hang on to that one. Psalm 14:1 says, the fool has said in his heart, there is no God. Well, I don't want to be fooled. I'd like to be wise. If you're going to trust God, there's three things that you need to consider. One, you need to settle in your heart to believe that God is. Resolve that for yourself. I had to do that in my college days. I had a voice that spoke to me. I just my head doing something, I can't tell you. I blame God for it. You can trust your chemistry book. Why can't you trust me? You know, and I just said, I'm done with that. And I made up my mind to believe that He is. It makes more sense to me to look around in the world here and say there is a creator. There is a designer. Why aren't we flying off this planet? Why are all the physics involved in keeping us on the face of this earth with a rock that's whirling around in this world? Why is it that there's a sun that gives us what is required of us? Why are there plants and life around us that grant us life? And without it, we wouldn't live. There's just too much order to this. The biggest thing to me is that Carla is a woman. By the way, I'll just tell you, Carla is a woman. She's different than me. She's built different than me. I like how she's built different than me. I'm a man, and I'm built different than Carla. But the two of us produce a third life. I took a class in physiology, anatomy and physiology in college. And I learned how the intricacies of our body and how they all function and all the things here. And they said, that just couldn't have happened out of mud. Slush, slime that crawled up out of the ocean. Just couldn't happen. I don't have enough faith to embrace that idea. But the thought that God is a creator, He's here, He's engaged, I have to settle that first of all. And I settled that. There's a story of a man who was a high wire aerialist who would do high wire acts, hundreds of feet above the ground and do things, stunts and stuff. And there's a cable that runs across Niagara Falls. And he decided to do a stunt where he put a wheel with a groove on the front of a wheelbarrow, and he walked the wheelbarrow across Niagara Falls on this cable. And then he'd walk it back, and the crowds would gather and cheer him on and just all excited about it. And when he came back, he says, all right, do you all believe that I can do that again? And yeah, let's see it, we want to do it again. He said, then he points to a young man sitting there. I said, get in the wheelbarrow with me. And the kid turned white and ran away. I said, oh, so you believe I can, but you don't believe me. And I thought that story is such a picture of how we live our life in relationship with God. We believe He can do things. But are we willing to get in the wheelbarrow and go with Him? Am I willing to risk my life in His care and in His hands? I'm just one voice speaking to you right now. No, I'm not. The Spirit of God is speaking to you. I know that too. That's what gives me confidence to stand up here. But He's calling all of us to get in the wheelbarrow and go right with Him. And I can tell you from my life experience, from our life experience together, God is faithful. I'm temporary in this life. We all are. But I can live this life as long as He gives it to me in confidence that I'm His, that He's with me, and I can serve Him, I can represent Him, I can be an influence, a positive influence in the world I live in. And you can do that. Whatever trade you may choose, whatever direction He may place in you in your life, or you follow what's in your heart to do, He'll walk with you in it. Second thing is learn all you can about His promises. Read the book. Get to know Him. And third thing is determine to trust God in His faithfulness to all of His promises. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Can you say that with me? And lean not on your own understanding. Okay? Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. See, you may think you understand how a situation, what's going on, what's coming next. And what He's saying to you here now is, that's wise to be thinking, to be clarifying your situation, to have an understanding of what's happening. But don't be so wise in your own eyes to forget that you may not know everything. So don't lean on it. Walk in trust and confidence and dependence on God as you reason. I said, some have read this passage and lean not on your own understanding, and they can translate that to mean throw your brain away. I said, God created you with a brain and ability to reason by design, with good intent. But He says, I am God, and I know what you don't know. Trust me. Walk with me. Reason. Seek out knowledge. Seek out understanding. Seek wisdom. But trust me in that whole process. In all your ways, acknowledge Him. Can you do that? In all your ways, acknowledge Him. Can you remember all three of them now? Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge Him. Remember that God is present with you all the time. Acknowledge that. Psalm 139, if you want to read it. Beautiful description. He knows your thoughts before you speak them, the intentions of your heart. He sees your actions, and He knows the consequences. Read Hebrews 4. Psalm 139, Hebrews 4. Acknowledge Him. Acknowledge your awareness of Him and His presence, and live openly before Him. And always express your gratitude for His watchful care, His protection, and His direction in your life. Lord, I have some things I don't understand, but thank you that you're here. Thank you that I'm yours and you're with me. Just thank you for that. And the last statement is, and He will make your paths straight. Did you say that with me? And He will make your paths straight. How much can you remember? Try it. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight. This is God's promise to you. And He's been faithful to it in our life all these years. We can count on Him. Looking forward, I had dreams, hopes, and ambitions. I was seeking satisfaction personally and fulfillment. And I chose to pursue my relationship with God, to seek His wisdom, His counsel, and the counsel of godly people who knew me. And I'll let the peace of God in my heart measure my decision. And looking back, it's been a straight line. Looking forward, it was a forest, a deep, dense forest. I didn't know. Long for a mountain I could get on top of and look down and see what's next. Life hasn't been that way for me. Other than the fact that God has been there, and when I've expressed my trust in Him, and He's opened doors to me I would not have expected. He's given me opportunity that I would not have known any other way. It's been a beautiful life. and He calls you to the same. And those are my thoughts for you this morning. There's a treasure in the wisdom of God. Find the excitement of discovering it, walking in it, practicing it. Thank you.